All right. Welcome, everybody, to Recovery Church. Whoop, whoop. So, all of you guys are regulars, so I don't have to tell you about tonight's Crosswalk service and that this is a completely different service than normal. But for those who may be watching this online, tonight is a different service than normal. We are going to have a special guest speaker. I am not going to speak, although I have not spoken this entire month, in case you didn't notice. I'm just saying. Just in case you didn't notice. But no, so we're going to go ahead and get started with one announcement. The first one is that on July 28th, that's on a Wednesday at 6 p.m., not 7, get that in your brain, 6 p.m., not 7, on Wednesday, July 28th, we are going to have our Crosswalk service / baptism at Lime Lake. So far, we are baptizing 3 people, so if you're interested in being baptized, let me know, and we'll get you in the lineup for that. So it's going to be a barbecue, too. So if you'd like to bring a dish to pass, I think we can. I don't know if we can or not. I don't know if you're allowed to do that yet or not. Randy, you're the author of all things. Randy says he doesn't know. It's a yes. She's like, it's a yes. We're gonna bring like hot dogs probably. We're just gonna keep it simple. We'll either bring hot dogs and hamburgers. So feel free to bring anything else that you might want to bring. Don't feed an army. There won't be a lot of us. Where the park is. If you want to ride, you can ride with us. No, I don't know them like that. I don't know the right people apparently. I don't know the right people to let me use their lake house. Yeah, so anywho, Kermit knows the right people. What are we doing with our lives? I don't know. I know Kermit, that's right. It's all about connections. Yes, Kermit, you work that out. You work that out. So with that being said, we're going to move into a time of worship after Kevin. He's got an announcement for us. And then we will move into the testimony.
Hey, friends. So I have some sad news, unfortunately. This is going to be my second to last week here at Ravenbrook. And that is due because my wife got a new job, and she is going to be the worship pastor at the Arbor Church, which normally that wouldn't interfere. I mean, that's on Sunday, and this is on Wednesday. But the practice for Sunday services are on Wednesday nights as well. So that's the reason why I won't be here in the future. But I'm really bummed about that because I really enjoy being here. I enjoy worshiping with you guys. I loved getting to know you guys and just being in community, and loved working with Maisha and just the ministry that's going on here. So I'm going to miss you guys. But so I just wanted to let you guys know that. And so that way it's next week. It's not just so abrupt. Hey, I'm out of here, But thank you guys for being a great congregation and just for worshiping with me. It's almost been a year and a half since I've been here. So
Doesn't feel like it.
I know it's crazy. It's with COVID and everything. Time kind of got warped, but I appreciate you guys very much, and thanks for giving me a chance up here. So.
Yeah, we love you, Kevin. Where are you going? You gotta leave worship. Oh, yeah, that's after. That's after worship. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna have worship. I can't play an instrument.
That's right.
My
That's right.
instrument is my voice. Note to self: instrument is my voice.
Yeah. All right, I'll pray for us and we'll get going. Heavenly Father, Jesus, Lord, there is not a word that is big enough to describe you. There is not a phrase or word that can encompass all that you are. That's how amazing you are. And Lord, tonight we want to worship you. We want to lift up your name. Lord, may our lives be more about you and less about us. Tonight, may we drink from the fountain. May we take a drink of your love, Lord, and apply it to our lives and grow from it. Jesus, just fill this place, fill our hearts, and may this next hour just be dedicated to you. It's in your name. Amen.
So you can take on whatever posture you'd like, but at least start by standing if you're able. Yep. That's your posture.
Alone in my sorrow and dead in my sin, lost without hope with no place to begin. Your love made a way to let mercy come in. When death was arrested and my life began. Ash was redeemed, only beauty remains. My orphan heart was given a name. My mourning grew quiet, my feet rose to dance. When death was arrested and my life began. It's your grace so free, washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. Released from my chains, I'm a prisoner no more. My shame was ransomed, he faithfully bore. He canceled my debt and he called me his friend. That's when death was arrested and my life began. It's your grace so free, washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. Oh, we're free, free, forever we're free. Come join the song of all the redeemed. Yes, we're free, free, forever, amen. When death was arrested and my life began. That's when death was arrested and my life began. It's your grace so free, washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. When darkness tries to rule over my bones, when sorrow comes to steal the joy I own, when brokenness and pain is all I know, I won't be shaken. No, I won't be shaken. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. The shame no longer has a place to hide. I am not a captive to the lies.
Not afraid to leave my past behind. No, I won't be shaken. No, I won't be shaken. Yeah, my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. There's power that can break off every chain. There's power that can empty out a grave. There's resurrection power in your name. There's power in your name. There's power in your name. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Amen. How lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord Almighty. For my soul longs and even faints for you. For here my heart is satisfied within your presence. I sing beneath the shadow of your wings. Better is one day in your courts. Better is one day in your house. Better is one day in your courts than thousands elsewhere. Better is one day in your courts. Better is one day in your house. Better is one day in your courts than thousands elsewhere. Than thousands elsewhere.
One thing I ask, and I would seek to see your beauty, to find you in the place your glory dwells. One thing I ask, and I would seek to see your beauty, to find you in the place your glory dwells.
Better is one day in your courts. Better is one day in your house. Better is one day in your courts than thousands elsewhere. Better is one day in your courts. Better is one day in your house. Better is one day in your courts than thousands elsewhere. My heart and flesh cry out for you, the living God. Your spirit's water to my soul. I've tasted and I've seen. Come once again to me. I will draw near to you. I will draw near to you. Better is one day in your courts, better is one day in your house, better is one day in your courts than thousands elsewhere. Better is one day in your courts, better is one day in your house, better is one day in your courts than thousands elsewhere, than thousands elsewhere. Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God, yeah. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God, yeah. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves a 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God, yeah.
You are seen, you are heard, and you are loved. So as we move into our next part of the service, I am so excited. So excited. So when I first asked Adam, who's going to be our speaker, I didn't know if he was going to do it or not, because we're crazy Jesus people. But you know what I've experienced from Adam? Adam has been nothing but authentic and has showed me nothing but love, regardless of what people said about me, regardless of if there was anything negative, anything at all. He hasn't shown anything but love to me. So if you guys could give it up for him so we can hear about his story.
Okay. Can everybody hear me? I got a big voice anyway, so. Authentic. Is there a greater compliment? I should have spoke first because the music was powerful. I'll let y'all know right now I'm a good interview, but I'm not the best storyteller. So I will open it up for Q&A at the end, and you're welcome to ask me anything. As Uni talked about authenticity, I think that's important. One of my favorite sayings is nobody cares what you know until they know that you care. So I try and be as open a book as possible. I've thought about this with my story, and where do you begin? I guess at the beginning. So bear with me as I stumble through some things and maybe add some things in that aren't necessary. Started in 1970. My mother was 15 years old when she had me. Dad was 19, and as in most cases, they did the best they could, with me, and that lasted about 2 years, and they were separated. My mom married again because it was 1972, and that's what you did in 1972 when you were a 17-year-old mother of a 2-year-old. You couldn't do it on your own. She never got her driver's license. My mom learned how to ride a bicycle, literally, with me on one of those death trap 1970s bicycle seats for kids. She said I was wiser than her because I started crying so bad at one point in time that she realized she wasn't supposed to ride the bike with me anymore. So I also grew up in that family where everybody was kind of learning everything, and we've all been to houses where you have the children's table and things like that. Well, I was the first grandchild by 5 years, so there was no children's table. So I sat at the adults' table, and all the adults drank. and all the adults smoked cigarettes, and they didn't know quite what to do with me, so they tried to include me. So I had my own wine glass at the house for events that they would fill with grape juice. They would buy near beer for me, and I'd sit there next to Grandpa as he drank his Pabst Blue Ribbon. And after a while, unbeknownst to them, I didn't like the grape juice anymore. I knew it wasn't what they were drinking, so I would dump the grape juice out and find some white wine and throw it in there, and nobody was none the wiser. Or I'd take a PBR and put it in the near beer. But I don't count that as when I started drinking. I count when I started drinking as 8 years old, when I would drink by myself. I started drinking by myself. It wasn't to fit in anymore. It was because I didn't feel I fit in. And it's interesting that I'm telling this story at a church. Because God is omnipresent, but sometimes his voice isn't as loud as the people in the room. And so I got abused and molested by family members who claimed to be a part of the church and never understood that they truly weren't, that they were lost. And so that led to a number of things, as is usually the case. The story never ends there. My story involved a lot of criminality. I caught my first robbery at 12. I assume most everybody in the room remembers Zephyr gas stations. I robbed a Zephyr gas station. My dad basically bought me out of trouble in that situation, so I didn't get on probation. At 15, I got on probation for B&E of the high school. Me and some friends tripping on acid. Decided this was a good idea and wanted to see what rubber cement would look like if you set it on fire on top of typewriters. I don't know if it was the acid or if it was the rubber cement, but it's some interesting colors, I'll tell you that much. And it continued to go down that road because I didn't feel that I was worth a lot. So at 17, I ended up in jail. At 19, I ended up in prison for the first time. At 23, I ended up in prison serving a 27 to 50-year sentence for bank robbery and 2 for the gun, so essentially a 29-year sentence. I just turned 23. It was 1993. My pink sheet said that they wouldn't consider releasing me until 2022. Again, anybody old enough in this room remembers that Buck Rogers took place in 2022, and a lot of space movies took place in the year 2022, and I could not imagine 22 years into the next century. But I had a moment of clarity, and it's a God moment. It wasn't God saying, "Look at me." It was God saying, "Look at you." And for the first time in my life, I realized I had a choice, which is crazy because I remember when I had that realization, I said, "Well, you couldn't tell me this 5 months ago? Would have been nice to know I had a choice back then." But some people have to learn in different ways, and they have to learn in different environments. And I had to learn the hard way, and I had to have an opportunity for it to cure and to sink in. And I had to do it under the toughest environment. And it took me a long time. Like I said, I went in 1993. My recovery started in 1997. And people a lot of times will say, prison time and jail time and things like that don't count in your sobriety. And Glennis asked me during my interview, she said, what would you say to someone who says that time doesn't count? I said, how long do you think you'd have stayed sober and clean if every day you walked into your bathroom someone was using in it? Because that's what happens. You can use anywhere you want to. I used in jail. I used on probation. I used in prison. We came off a batch of hooch every other day for the first 4 years I was in prison. I got one guy who tells a story all the time of the first time that he ever saw me. I had my foot locker lined with a trash can full of water to the brim because it's about 115 degrees on J4 and MR. And he didn't know how, but I had a parasol, little umbrella sitting in my glass of Spud juice as I sat there like I was on the beach. So 97 is when my recovery journey started because I stopped drinking. But I kept doing bits and pieces and everything else all the way until 2003. In 2003, I was still straddling the fence. I was doing a lot of the right things. And I was still doing some of the right things and giving God credit for the things that I did to screw up my life. I was still filing taxes in prison for myself and other friends to continue to feed my habit. And I'd never told on anybody in my life, and I told on myself because I knew I was never going to be able to make that next step unless I let go of the things that had been holding me back and the things that weren't uplifting me. So I went to the inspector. I told on myself, told him what was going on. I told him I had 17 checks in the mail ranging between $1,800 and nearly $5,000. And I told on myself. What I didn't think about, which I'd never thought about, was I had them being sent to people who didn't know that they were coming. Family members. And so rather than telling them what I'd done, the inspector made it sound as if he'd come across the information. The FBI and the IRS showed up at my family's house, and 10 years after I'd been sentenced to prison, here were the police still showing up at their house, asking what Adam had done. And so, my mom and I didn't talk for 17 years. My sister and I didn't talk for 8, and one of my sisters still doesn't talk to me. And the worst part about that is that she's still locked in a relationship with somebody who doesn't exist anymore. She doesn't get an opportunity to heal as my mom and I have, or as my sister and I have, because they don't have to have that relationship with that not broken, sick individual at that time. Because people aren't broken. They don't need to be fixed. People are sick and need to be healed. So, fast forward 2003, I go to court in 2017. I'm under an old set of the law. I don't want to get into the law, but you earn disciplinary credits. And so I'd earned 4.5 years of disciplinary credits because once I woke up, I had both feet on one side of the fence, and I taught classes every day, and I conducted groups, and they wouldn't let me take any classes. So I would study and introduce them so that I could teach them to the population. And I did that at a clip of probably 5 of them a week while working a full-time job, while maintaining my relationships and things of that nature. I didn't do it so the parole board would see it. I didn't do it so my judge would see it. I did it so I would see it and so that it would take hold of me, which it did. And so, like I said, I go to court to get my disciplinary credits approved, and the judge says no. I don't feel that you should be released early. They sentenced you to this. She didn't understand first how the law was written. It wasn't an early release. So 2017, they told me I have to do 4.5 more years. At that point in time, I'd served 25. For a bank robbery. Remember this, for a bank robbery. I'm not minimizing that, but we know people who serve much less for much greater and don't, commit themselves to being, of assistance to other people. So, as I said, I have to learn things the hard way. I have to be shown that they're real because I've fooled myself, not just other people before. And so I went back to the prison, got mad about it for a minute, and went right back that same day and went in and taught a class. Went the next day, went to a group. Nothing changed. I didn't change. I didn't throw up my hands. It was no longer an all or nothing situation. I was invested because I knew my purpose. And my purpose is similar to anybody else's, and how you define it is up to you. But my purpose is simply to be a beneficial presence. And as complicated as life had been up to that point in time, being a beneficial presence was really easy. One, I had to show up, which is why I'm here and why I jumped at the opportunity when you asked me. Because you're invited to where you need to be in one way, shape, or form. And the second thing is, you just have to do your best to be a benefit while you're there. And if you can't fully be a benefit, at least don't be a hindrance. If you can't construct, at least don't destruct. So I ended up winning my appeal, and I ended up winning my appeal in a way that most people don't. Most people don't with an attorney, let alone doing it by themselves from a prison library. So I won my appeal. It took all the way going to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled it back, and she laid into me when I went back to court again, you're still not taking responsibility, look at you appealing, and and she laid into me for about an hour and 15 minutes. And after that time, she said, I'm going to release you. So at that point in time, I had 27 years in. And I expected this to draw out for months. But again, God had worked. This is just before COVID. I beat COVID out the door by about a month and a half. I got out January 8th of 2020. Got a job as a peer recovery coach in March. Blessed with my fiance who helped make that possible because I couldn't get hired in anywhere around where I lived. So I wasn't just going to work in a warehouse. That wasn't what I did all that time for. That wasn't what I had the experience for. So the only job that I could find doing what I wanted to do was clear down in Adrian. But again, COVID hit, so I didn't have to make the drive. I got to do a lot of it through Zoom. I only went down there one day a week. Then I came upon a job that everybody said, you're crazy. There's no way you're going to get this job. You haven't even been out of prison for a year. And one thing prison will teach you is no is not the end. Somebody telling me no, I at least want them to tell me no. If I tell Kermit, listen, I'm going to go over here and do something, he can give me his opinion, but if he tells me no, that doesn't matter. He's not the one doing the hiring. So that's exactly what I did. Is I put in for the job for the Jackson Area Recovery Community Coordinator. Everybody said it was above my pay grade. Everybody said it was above my experience, but that's exactly what I was doing while I was in prison, with the classes, with training facilitators, with doing that. And I'm doing it with much less hours now because I was doing 7 days a week, 12 hours a day while I was in there. So here I am today, and every opportunity I get to share my story I think is important, not only for people in recovery themselves, because this is a rise in recovery story. This is a raising from the ashes type of story. This is a resurrection story. Don't get me wrong, I'm not being blasphemous. I'm not putting it on that same level. But it absolutely is a story that nobody ever thought would be possible. But it is. But I also tell this story because I see stigma in 3 different areas. I see stigma in the general idea where people look at it and they think about recovery and they still associate it directly with addiction. And it's almost like they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. I see stigma that we have internally within ourselves. We have stigmas about our own recovery and about the recovery of others, whether it's people who are on MAT, whether it are people that are do different paths, whatever the case may be. We have a tendency to do that. We draw lines. Unfortunately, that's what people do. Is we're drawing lines, and we create us's and them's. And there's stigma amongst people who are in the field to help. And so I call it infiltration. That my job is to infiltrate and become a part of these conversations. I got 3 suits at home. I almost wore one today, but it wouldn't have been right because that's not who I am on a regular basis. But that's my disguise. That's my camouflage. Is I've got these suits so that I can get into rooms that I couldn't get in before. And let them say what they have to say. And then I drop the bomb on my story on them. You know? Because all of us have something to be proud of. And I'm so proud to be a part of the recovery community. So, any questions? Or any questions or comments? Because, like I said, I'm an open book. Don't think you're going to offend me. 27 years in a cell with other people, you're not very easily offended. All right, Dave. Yeah. Yeah. And you're here too. Amen. Yes, indeed. Go ahead, Ye. I think one of the things is, and probably one of the most difficult things is getting people getting people to have a measure of faith. Because I asked a group that I was doing the other day, do you need to know that it's worth it before you do it? And all of them said yes. And then I asked the logical question, well, what happens on a day when you don't know? And that, to me, is where faith steps in, that you have to have faith in something greater. And you can play with the words and description. I don't know if I've got you a copy of Stepping Up yet. We taught an ethics class in prison, and one of the relationships that you're always in, whether your relationship is avoidance or not, is with God. Doesn't matter if you've turned your back or not. If I don't talk to Kermit anymore, that's still a relationship. It's avoidance. But we had to find a way to bring people into the conversation who wouldn't engage otherwise. Because as soon as you mention the name, it scares them. So we just referred to him as the transcendent. And I can describe the transcendent in a way, does anybody in this room know everything? And you'll never get anybody who's going to honestly believe that they know everything. So that's what the transcendent is. The transcendent is the other things, and you don't have to know. You don't have to know. That's why we have each other too. You know, they say you have only 2 eyes and 2 ears and 1 mouth. I dispute that. I'm a part of the recovery community, and I have thousands of eyes and thousands of ears and thousands of mouths. I'm not limited to my own experience, and so that's one of the things that I would tell them is you're not limited to that. I used to think my grandfather had this statement, and I was really disappointed to find out that it was actually Eleanor Roosevelt. And He used to tell me all the time, he said, boy, you better learn from other people's mistakes because you'll never live long enough to make them all yourself. And that's the other beauty about being a part of a community, is I don't have to bump my head on everything. Kermit's taller than me, so he's going to hit some things that I don't, but I'm going to look out for him, you know? And so when you say authentic, I think you have to be authentic, not so much to speak. Everybody speaks. I think you need to be authentic to listen. And I mean to really listen. You know? And that allows for real conversations and things like that. So I would just tell them, have a little faith, even for a moment. One more thing on that, because faith is a difficult thing for people to get to. Faith is a difficult thing for people to comprehend. But most everybody I've ever met has watched movies. And so if you can suspend belief when you're watching Rambo or Aliens or whatever the case may be, suspend belief long enough that faith is possible and that he exists and might actually love you. You know, because that, I think that's the most difficult thing for many is they don't feel lovable. So therefore, how can anyone, let alone some entity, actually do it? And just because we don't act a certain way doesn't make us lovable. The same way a pop bottle is redeemable for 10 cents. If I don't ever turn it in, that doesn't change its value. It was always worth 10 cents. I just didn't redeem it. Anybody else? All right. That was the easiest interview that I've had. All right. I thank you. Yeah, Uni said we've got a special event, and I kept looking at the door to see who the special speaker was.